Hi, this is a loft bed I built for my daughter Saskia when she turned 13. And I'll just sweep around a little bit, you see what it looks like. As you can see, the room is sort of small, so it's hard to capture the whole thing all at once. Okay. I asked my daughter to find a design she liked, and she produced one. It was more complicated than this. It had drawers along the front, and it wasn't really structurally all that well designed. I didn't think. Anyways, this design's kind of nice because it's very light. It doesn't use a lot of materials. It keeps the cost down, and it's quite strong. And let's talk about how I made it. Start off with by making these legs. Let's get a good picture of a leg. There we go. And the legs are made of 1x8s. No. Yeah, I think they're 1x8s. And then these pieces are only 1x6s. And then you screw it together using trim screws. In fact, I like using square drive trim screws. Maybe one at the very bottom, then 6 inches up, then maybe every foot or so. So you start by making the legs, and you build a cross brace. Again, it's hard to see, but it's down there on the bottom. Screw that together, but make sure that it's all nice and square. Put a framing square in that corner there when you screw it together to make sure it's square. Okay, so now you have the legs and the cross brace. Next thing you want to do is build the main frame. How do you do that? Okay, well, let's look underneath here. We basically have our 1x4s. And they're spaced every foot. And those get screwed into the ends here. 3 screws. The screws are about 2 inches, 2.5 inches long. I can't remember exactly. And they go into this piece. I don't know if I mentioned how big that was. That's a 1x10. So this beam only goes up so far. What were those? 1x4s? Okay. So now you have the frame built, and you want to screw this plywood in. You can get away with 3/8 inch plywood. This is just fur or something that's been painted with some white paint. I do that because it gets kind of splintery otherwise. And you only need to put in maybe 4 screws to hold the whole sheet up in here. You don't have to like screw it into all. It doesn't squeak. It's not a real problem. Okay, now once you got the legs that we were talking about screwed into the main frame right here, and again, notice there's a little pattern there. Then you tilt this whole assembly up from the ground, and like right on this end here, we'll put like, I don't know, a 1x4 or something going down to the ground. We'll just put a clamp across here on our 1x4, and we'll square it up by putting a level across the top. Thanks for the help, Tootsie Wootsie. I really needed that. Yeah. Okay. Gotta be used to Tootsie. Alright, so we have this thing propped up, kind of jerry-rigged. Then we'll slip into these boards along the side. We cut them, pre-cut them. And I'd say that splays out about, I don't know, maybe 2 feet. It's fairly steep, as you can see. Okay, once you got the leg slipped in place, then you pepper it with screws. And we're going to try to catch as much of this stuff as we can. And then also you want a rotating pattern going around like this. Why? Because there's going to be a lot of torque across here when you put a heavy load on it. We want to make sure it's plenty strong, and it is plenty strong. Okay, so you have this leg in, and you have that leg in, and screw it down. Then the next thing to do is to make these steps. And those are basically just T-beams. Well, that's a 1x4 underneath. And there's like what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws holding the T-beam together. Okay, then you figure out what the distance is from here to the floor, and you divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4, and that gives you the spacing for the distance up from the floor to put your beams across in with. And again, those are just long screws. You don't need that many screws. I don't know why I put so many. I guess I was worried about having enough shear strength. Oh, I didn't want it to squeak either, because that's kind of annoying. The steps themselves are actually a little bit on the chunky side. As you can see, there's quite a span. In fact, let's get the ruler out. Yeah, about 14 and a half inches rise. And these are 1x10s. Okay, so we space them out, we screw them in, and we're done with that part. And let's try it out here once. I'll show you that it's really not that bad for climbing. Okay, and we're up here. My daughter was worried about falling off the bed, so this part was put in after the fact. It is a bit difficult changing bed sheets. She has to basically climb in back here and help. And I don't get to tuck her in anymore or smooch her goodnight, but that's the way it goes. She's getting to be a big girl. Anyway, thank you for watching.